Record. Wonderful.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Nancy Della Noche from ACT-IAC, and in my role, I'm the Director for Community Engagement, and I support the COIs. One of them is the COI you're in right now, Resilient Infrastructure. And let me introduce you to the industry chair and the moderator for this afternoon's program, Jim Sprague. Jim, over to you.
Thank you, Nancy. We've got an exciting part 2 of the webinar, and I always appreciate Pete jumping in and really linking what we do here in this resilient infrastructure community of interest to the mission. So, Pete, if you could hop on.
Sure. I appreciate you, Jim, and I know this is your floor, but I just want to emphasize to everybody who's joined and who watches this at a later date. I see some friends and colleagues from my former life in government on the chat. So please chat and ask questions. We hope this is an educational, informational, and most importantly, an enlightening discussion. Ryan and Dave kind of set the table for us last time in part 1 of this discussion around data centers and risk and siting. We're honored to have Jen Pepson Elwood here with us as well. So whoever participates today, this will hopefully be just an appetizer for you to do more research. And in light of the crazy weather we've been having, at least in the DMV, if not across the country this year, having Sonny Westcott, who's one of our thought leaders and just so passionate about weather. I think this is what's really going to bring this discussion here in part 2 into focus. This is what, is a data center we depend on for our jobs in many cases and our personal technologies at home, but there's also a humanity component. And I think Jim has really expressed that, and we have in the COI, right? Open government matters to us. How are we participating, being collaborative? And of course, just in terms of ensuring there's transparency, we hope that this discussion will create some light bulb moments, as we like to say. So critical infrastructure, resilient infrastructure, data centers, it's all kind of tied together. But make no mistake, when it's not working, or if, later today in DC where there are tornado warnings, when stuff's not working, bad stuff usually happens, sometimes tragic. So this is a very important topic. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks so much. And for those of you that were not at part 1, I'd like to introduce our 2 special guest speakers for our fireside chat about data center siting. First, we're super lucky to have Dave Martinez of Sandia National Labs with us. Dave's worked at the Sandia National Labs for 35 years. He has in-depth knowledge of HVAC, environmental controls, electrical and mechanical systems, and Dave is frequently sought after by government agencies and industry for this expertise. While his time at Sandia, he's directly contributed to the growth of their data center operations from 20,000 square feet to over 77,000 square feet today. So he's a wealth of knowledge. Also with us is Ryan Howard. I've known Ryan for years, and we cross-pathed in various industry groups. Ryan leads the hyperscale immersion cooling and MEP at Submer. That company is water smart, rock solid data center for military and enterprises, cooling systems for those applications. Also, when he was at F5, he launched Velos and R Series, and through a bunch of tough times, kept the Fortune 500 and DoD humming along. So he's got 28 years in resilient and power and compute. He's got patents. He's been on TV shows, focused and featured on the Discovery Channel's Popular Science, and he's built some of the first LEED certified buildings for global clients. So he also knows Dave. He's got deep ties to Sandia, Los Alamos, and I'd say that Ryan's got the playbook on building infrastructure that lasts. So welcome, Ryan. Also, last introduction, Jess is my co-host, Jen Pepson Elwood. and she is an associate and senior resilience planner with Dewberry. Awesome company. She's a infrastructure resilience professional with over 15 years of experience helping communities and partners plan for a safer, more sustainable future. Jen works at the intersection of policy, planning, and implementation. From local projects to statewide strategies, she helps turn risks into opportunity and supports resilience across the disaster cycle, from mitigation and preparedness to response and recovery. So welcome, Jen. All right, so we're going to set the stage for what we're going to talk about for the next 20 minutes. And one of the things that this group has been working on, it's a project which involves a set of web resources, maps, other kinds of critical infrastructure resources on a website. We're going to share that in just a moment. We're going to look at a couple of maps which speak to data center siting, and we're going to then mesh that with Dave and Ryan's background on what makes a good a site for a government data center. So we're going to provide this information on LinkedIn. Follow us on LinkedIn if you can. And I'm going to do my call to action right now, which is if you'd like to join our project group, discuss these kinds of topics, and you've got expertise or you just want to participate, please join us. Again, there's all the information on LinkedIn, so we'd love to have you as part of our project team. Feel free to add just any questions in the chat, and I'm going to pull up our first map and we will get started. So stand by. All right, Ryan, can you see the maps for our project site?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, so this question is directed to Dave first. And Dave, how does the government select sites for their data centers? What makes it successful? Like, what are you looking for? And as you answer this question, how can private industry help with this work that you do? So here's a map, and we've taken a look at this, and the green dots represent DOE sites for consideration. You being a DOE site, you must have great insight into this. So I'm going to just open it up to you and Ryan for discussion on those topics. So go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate the introduction. Appreciate everybody on the call as well. So basically, we have worked with all the different labs at DOE. We met in Denver and talked about what would make a great data center site. And of course, everybody wants a big data center by their site. However, there are many things that are factoring in here: power, land, water usage, availability, speed of deployment, success in the past building systems, and things of that nature. So when all was considered, the site selections were narrowed down to about 15 different sites, and then narrowed down to like 3 or 4. And I believe right now the sites are some of the sites are Idaho, Oak Ridge, Savannah, some of the major sites leading the charge in the selection. But that's not to say that the other sites, such as Albuquerque and California and other Idaho, plus many other sites, are still in the thought process of being built to Argonne and places like that. So yeah, so network, ease of access to the site itself, community, what's the community like around the sites, and how it affects that. And industry could actually lend a hand here or play a part of this by looking at what we're doing with these systems that we're building up as far as heat reuse and basically what we could do is actually take the heat we use and use some type of industry near us, and that would be great. And then also it would be what we're trying to do is build these sites where we could be part of the community as well. So we want to give back to the community and some of the things that we're doing here when we're building these sites.
Thank you, Dave. And Ryan, you are industry, so how are you helping with delivering on some of these sites? And what are some of the things that you look to help the government with?
Sure. So I think Dave touched on one of the hottest topics is heat reuse. Right now, you have sites taking potentially gigawatts, if not more, in power, and usually that's translated right into heat and coughed in the atmosphere, which isn't great. It's a huge waste of power. So if we can work with local communities and place these data centers where we can, let's say, couple them with farming and provide greenhouses and provide the ability to heat these barns, which are very lossy for livestock. That starts to become a very good use. Even using the farming land to put piping under the farming land so that we can get longer growth cycles out of our crops, maybe 2, 3 cycles, that starts to produce more agriculture for the U.S. and potential exports from the same land where normally, it's only useful in the summer. And what we look for is, some of the things Dave mentioned, but also now we're trying to use zero water when possible. It's been a big issue before. People don't realize a chat GPT search vaporizes a glass of drinking water every time you run that search. So we're trying to look at closed loop systems that don't evaporate a ton of water at once. We're also looking at the noise levels. We want silent data centers. There's a lot of folks, let's say out in Virginia, who rightfully so complain about the noise of some of these large data centers. We're trying to eliminate that and bring the decibel level down so it's very tolerable, and it's a desirable feature versus having something that's sitting there buzzing 24 hours a day. And last, I would say also, some of the designs we're looking at help with fire resiliency. So we'll make let's say, a retention pond that we could use, or a reservoir. We'll utilize an existing reservoir, and we'll be able to circulate that reservoir and cool it. Or let's say, sewer septic services, we can work to help refine that system. Because if you're putting all of this redundancy in one place with generators, backup power, redundant power lines, it makes sense to help the community and co-locate that when you're building everything together.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. With regards to the work that we're doing in our project team, a lot of it we've centered around maps and taking a look at a map. Here's an example. Here's another example showing risks from NERC in different areas of the country. But going back to these maps, which people can look at when we publish the link, we've got multiple resources out there. How would you characterize how these maps help government and industry think differently, or perhaps just consider more than just a location? What are the things around it, and how do these maps help?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that really helps us is that we have other DOD sites looking at these maps and building these maps, and we utilize these pieces and the resources that they have put together. Because these are large projects that to just make this map, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy from other people throughout the nation and the labs itself. So we yoke these strengths of these people with our brothers and sisters labs, and for that, it makes it easier for us to take a look at a map and understand the site selection rather than us go and do all the research and then try to come up with this type of information. So it's really great information for the site selection, because there's water maps, there's power maps, there's renewable energy maps, there's weather maps that you have to consider as well. There's transportation, aging transportation, aging transmission line maps, and there's also utilization of new energies and new workforces being developed in these certain areas. So, and also new industries that are going in. So we look at all of these and collectively try to make a good decision based on everything that we see. And what also is important about this is some maps are timelines, so they look from the past and then some predicted to the future, so we understand what can be what may happen 5 to 10 years down the road. Because you build a data center, you definitely want to have the resources and the sustainability for many years to come.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. All right, so we've heard about the selection process, and throughout that, we've touched on the community. And I want to turn it over to our co-host, Jen, who will talk more about and guide that discussion about how communities are preparing for data centers and the digital infrastructure needs of the future. So I'm going to stop sharing the map, and Jen, over to you.
Thanks, Jen. So yeah, so as Jen was saying, we've had this conversation looking at industry and government, and Ryan and Dave, you've kind of touched on some of these ways that there could be kind of these beneficial kind of co-benefits from data centers and working with agricultural land and some of these other technologies. And so I'm really curious, as we focus kind of on that community perspective, what you see as kind of, what innovations are ready for real world deployment now, and how can communities and local utilities start preparing to integrate them? The technologies that you're talking about of ways to kind of bring those data centers and some of those co-benefits to communities. What's kind of on the precipice? What can communities look for, and how can they get ready?
I think one of the biggest uses in city uses is, let's say, co-location of local compute, for example, at hospitals. We can take the heat from the systems, and these servers are 99% efficient at producing heat, and hook it into existing HVAC systems in the building. So, such as Los Alamos and Sandia does, they can schedule their compute workloads to run, let's say, at 3 in the morning. So it's heating up the building. So when everybody comes in, you've got, essentially free heat out of the system. And so you're eliminating power that you would normally use, and again, waste to just heat, to running your compute locally, which in a hospital situation is nice because you don't have to rely upon going out to the cloud or fiber optics breaking down. It's a mission critical life safety operation. So you have a nice local fast connection. And with today's AI, they're sorting through quite a bit of data in the medical world. And you get the benefit of using the heat out of that system for your building, and also to keep sidewalks and essentially roadways, parking lots from icing over, which helps from a slip and fall standpoint, and it helps from an insurance standpoint.
Yeah, and I think on the other piece of that, you have workforce and education development in the community. You have infrastructure enhancement as well. So you'll be building a data center, but you also improve the infrastructure toward the data center and for the community. Big dark fiber, more fiber, better communication, more power, new economic developments around there, sustained shared environmental values that can work together as a community to get that, and some of the direct economic and the social contributions, perhaps even building an educational team that could actually teach some of the young students around there that are interested in how data centers work, and that gives the community a lot of opportunity.
That's a great insight. Ryan, I'm sorry, is there saying?
I was going to agree immensely with Dave, because you could tie this to local colleges, for example, that we've talked about in the past, and work on training programs for next gen AI, because we can't find enough electricians, plumbers, HVAC engineers, or even folks that know how to build these data centers. So I think it's an opportunity when we build these data centers to work with the community and develop training programs that are hands-on so that everybody gets new skill sets that are usable in today's job market.
So if I was a community interested in exploring data centers or had been approached by a data center developer, what would be the number one piece of advice you'd give me to help support the type of co-location, some of the benefits you both are describing?
Go ahead and take that. So I think the benefits would be working, again, as I mentioned, together closely with the local city council, colleges, to develop a training program. I do, think that this should be tied to, let's say, an unemployment program to where they can get hands-on training locally on building these data centers. But also, I think interacting with, let's say, the county council planning division to educate people as to what type of data center is going in. Because a lot of times there's pushback, but if there's certain types of data centers that could be allowed in the zoning, such that don't take water, for example, or they don't take, they're not extremely loud, for the environment, for the surrounding, tenants in the area. I think that's a plus because the more people understand and know about the process, I think if they get involved, it's going to be a lot better communications back and forth. And as we mentioned, especially if we can start integrating that into reducing costs, such as if we can tie this into new developments for construction for houses, it'd be nice, especially in low income situations or any situation, to not have a heating bill, for example.
Right, you could build district heating loops. You look at one thing I would do if I was a city looking at, I would have early engagement. I would understand what's happening in the what's going to be happening and how it's going to form and help develop that. So you would be part of the equation actually, and you'd have community benefit agreements. So basically, you'll understand what you're getting back, what you're giving, and what the future looks like. So all the things that Ryan just mentioned are good enhancements and good things to talk about or look toward as a data center may be an opportunity to really enhance your community overall.
No, those are great points. And hearing what it sounds like, kind of community benefits agreements, close coordination and partnerships with local community colleges and technical programs as well to kind of expand out that lens when considering and exploring data center options. So I guess with an eye towards the future in our last few minutes here, you all touched on zoning and some of these other issues kind of related to site selection, data centers. If we're looking ahead 5 to 10 years, 2035, what are some of those key opportunities and barriers you see to advance this space so that communities have the digital infrastructure they need for the future? What types of things do we need to think about so that our infrastructure is resilient, sustainable, and kind of powering and community aligned and the way that we would want it to be supporting all of this?
Yeah, one of the things you're going to be looking at is the data centers that they're building near your community will be very, they'll want to stay 24/7. They'll want to stay up 100% of the time. So one of they're going to bring resiliency into the city. So all of the infrastructure, all the piping, all the plumbing, all the electricity, all the fiber will have to be very resilient. That means that the community will also benefit from this because they'll have a very resilient infrastructure built around them and in order to get this data center built. So when people have large blackouts or this or that, eventually you will be working with the data center. They could put up, send power to, offloading some power into the city to help what you call like a curtailment plan and shed some of their load so they're able to get the city up and running while these large blackouts won't affect them. So there's a lot of things in the future you can look at. So there's a lot we could talk about that. We don't have that much time. That's a whole subject.
Awesome.
Dave, water treatment plants. Usually, if you see outages, let's say in Texas, you'll get a boil notice after the fact because the facilities have lost power. Things like fire, government functions, you could co-locate that next to the data center or adjacent to it, and now you have all this redundancy to keep everything up and running in a disaster. So when we talk resilient data centers, we're also talking about including government services and functional services such as your water systems, and again, any sort of treatment systems that need to stay up during a disaster. And I think that will start to change people's minds about wanting a data center in their backyard.
Well, the future is certainly looking very bright based on that description and ways of figuring out opportunities to co-locate and create, meet those multiple objectives for communities. So I know we're kind of coming up on time, but I guess, are there any other final thoughts from that community perspective of things you wish community leaders would know or questions that they could ask to learn more about data centers and really start the conversation?
I think people dwell on the negative actually. So basically they see the big industry coming in and right away I think if basically if they understood the benefits across the board, so perhaps the people building the data centers can communicate better way ahead of time, hold town hall meetings and let them know exactly the benefits that are coming, and the community can reach out to them as well from the state. And if they're not quite understanding all of this, they can actually get some consultants in and make sure they understand, get things more like in layman terms that are sometimes difficult for some people to understand.
Likewise, I think it comes down to looking at the plus side of it creates construction jobs, you create security jobs, IT positions, but really to me it's the training is going to be the big focus because we lack the skill set to expand at the growth rates that we need right now, and even behind the meter we don't have enough power, so we need folks that understand generators and how to run systems off, let's say, solar or wind, and not completely abandon those technologies because today's modern data centers can be very intelligent as to their power usage. And we have all this abandoned, let's say, solar or wind when you don't need it. The data centers can actually absorb that power first. So once we look at these intelligent data centers and some of the subsystems behind that tied to training and working with the local colleges, I think it becomes a very big benefit, especially if we're not using any water in the system at all.
Fantastic. Yeah, and actually transforming the data centers into something, building grid resilience for the community as opposed to the opposite. Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you both for taking the time to kind of talk through those community perspectives. Appreciate that. And I think with that, I'll turn it back to Jim to close us out for this conversation.
All right. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to close out the session and then turn it over to Nancy. But I want to thank you, Dave, Ryan, Jen, thank you, and everyone who joined. It makes our community work. So thank you to ACT-IAC, and over to you, Nancy, our awesome host.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jen, for moderating the session. And to our guests, Ryan and Dave, you're always welcome to come back anytime you want to chat with us and enlighten our community. And with that, thanks everyone for attending. I'll be posting a recording of this session on YouTube and ACT-IAC's YouTube channel, and keep an eye out for it. We'll post it also on the Resilient Infrastructure COI LinkedIn page. So if you missed that, please visit the page and you'll find a lot of information about our COI and announcements. So please follow us. And with that, thanks everyone, and have a safe afternoon.
Sure.
Yeah.